Hey guys, Bettina Ray here. Welcome back to my channel for 2018. There hasn't been much on here recently because it's been school holidays and we've been busy basically just holidaying at home. It's been lovely, just kind of sticking close to home, going to the beach, doing all the things that really we are lucky to have right on our doorstep. But the kids are back at school. It's time to get back into work, get back into sharing here with you guys, and I'm really looking forward to it. I've got lots of things planned, as I tend to always have when I'm pregnant. It's like my ideas just go crazy. The actual ability to implement is a little bit harder, so I'll see how I go. But yeah, I've got some exciting things coming, so hopefully you stay tuned. Make sure if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button, like, share, do all of the things. I really appreciate it. So today I want to talk to you about anxiety in pregnancy because it's something that's a big issue for me, and I know it's a big issue for lots of other people. Anxiety in general, but also specific anxiety that comes up when you're pregnant. And I don't think it's spoken about enough. In my last pregnancy, when I started doing the video diaries week by week, I was so deep in anxiety, I didn't even know I had it. And it really took me that 6 to 9 months where we took a big break and just focused on getting healthy and finding my happy again, that it took me that time to unravel, this is anxiety, and actually I've been experiencing this for most of my life. So while I've been really careful not to spiral back into that same place of being so far in it that I can't even see it, I do want to bring it up and talk about it because I think pretending it's not happening at all is not helpful either. So during this pregnancy, obviously after 3 losses, anxiety is still playing a part. I don't know that it's completely going to go away until this baby is in my arms, and maybe not even then, because losing babies has really opened my eyes to how fragile everything is. Most of the time though, I'm doing pretty okay. So I'm doing quite a number of things to manage my anxiety. So to just kind of keep ticking along day by day and to make sure it's not flaring up. So kind of like preventative stuff, I guess, and I'll share those with you in a second. But I've also learned a few little things over the last year, I guess, of things I can do when I start to head into that anxiety spiral. So if you're new to kind of unraveling your anxiety, or maybe you're not even sure if you have it, the spiral is kind of where you get stuck, really stuck in a thought pattern, and you're kind of freaking out. And for me, it ended up usually being some sort of explosion emotionally. So I was either really sad or really angry, or perhaps I'd have an argument with someone. You like kind of pick arguments to just kind of bring things to a head and get things out. So the spiral is what I try and avoid. It still comes up, and there are certain things that tend to trigger me. Going for an ultrasound will send me into a bit of a spiral, so I'm doing my preventative things, and then also having those tools on hand for dealing with the spiral once I get in it, because I kind of know heading towards the 20-week ultrasound in a couple of weeks, it's going to come up again. I can't help it. Around 16 weeks, which is when I lost Orion and gave birth to him, it came up again. I was in a huge spiral. I couldn't function. I couldn't do any of this sort of stuff, any sort of sharing. It was like knuckle down and deal with the anxiety. All right, so first of all, the things I'm doing to just manage the anxiety. So to try and keep it at bay and to avoid those spirals, because I used to spiral all the time. These days, it really is only on those big triggers that I find myself really overwhelmed by it all. So the first one I've been doing lots of is reading fiction. I don't know how it helps. I guess it's a distraction thing. It lets me go into another world where I can kind of escape. So I've been making sure that I've got a book on the go each week, and I'm trying to make sure I read a few pages before bed if I haven't had a chance to get to it all day. And so far, it seems to be working really well. So another thing that I've spoken about heaps, you're probably sick of hearing about it, is journaling. So every morning I will journal. So just any sort of book, grab a pen and write whatever's in your head. It doesn't have to make sense. It doesn't have to be award-winning writing. It's not for anyone but for you. You may not even read it yourself. I found it really helps to get stuff out of my head, get all the nonsense out, and kind of sets me up for a clearer sort of day instead of starting the day in that fog. Meditation, of course, I can't help but say this one, but it doesn't have to look like you sitting down with your eyes shut for 10 minutes. Your meditation can be having a cup of tea and not doing anything else, so not checking social media. It can be when you're washing the dishes, just mindfully washing the dishes, being present, not planning your week, not doing anything else, one thing at a time. So anything that you do can basically be a meditation as long as you're present and mindful while you're doing it. So another thing that's really been helping for me has been mantra. So whenever I feel myself getting anxious, so those thoughts pop into my head all the time. What if I lose this baby? What if I get to 40 weeks and then I lose the baby? What if this baby dies in the first year? And it's horrible. It's horrible, the stuff that my brain can come up with. But it's just a thought like any other, and I have the power to think of another thought that can kind of counteract that. So I've been using mantra. Whenever those thoughts come up, I'll take a deep belly breath because that calms the nervous system down. And I'll just say to myself, I'm healthy and strong and my body is growing a healthy baby. And sometimes I have to repeat that 3 or 4 times. And it's just kind of breathing and slowing down and letting that kind of sink in. It sounds crazy, but it works every time. And the last thing that I've been doing to really manage the anxiety and to keep it at bay is making sure I'm not on social media too much and I'm spending lots of time outside. So in my veggie patch, at the beach, being disconnected from, I guess, the thinking and the mental stuff really helps. So when I'm in the veggie patch or playing in the backyard or in the pool with the kids, I'm not thinking about all of this other stuff. I'm not trying to plan next year or anything like that. And it really helps me to just kind of stay grounded and stay out of those spirals. All right, so then of course we get to what happens when I actually get into a spiral. I have to admit I'm not perfect at it. Sometimes other people have to pull me out of my spiral. My husband's getting pretty good at recognizing now when I'm just kind of going around and around in my head and not really getting anywhere, and he's quite good at talking me down. So I think having someone who knows you really well and knows what you're going through and why you're feeling like that and can be able to kind of pull you out a little is really helpful. The same for a couple of friends. I have a few friends who've been through a similar thing, and they can just kind of check in with me from time to time, and they know when I'm in that I'm going a little crazy loop, and they know some things because they've been through it themselves to kind of pull me out. So I really recommend not pretending that you don't suffer from this. I don't think you should have to pretend. So many people suffer from anxiety, and whether it's triggered from pregnancy or loss, or whether it's triggered from something entirely different, I think it's really helpful to be honest about it, because then other people can really help you get through it. And you can help them as well, because it's so common. So many of us are going through it. So when I do happen to catch myself though going into that spiral, the things that I've been doing that I find have helped me to not go completely down that path have been just making sure I get some time to myself. So really making sure that all of my time is not taken up working or being with the kids or even just being as a family. I need that time to just kind of step away and like find me again. So whether it's a yoga class, whether it's going for a walk, sometimes it's just going to a coffee shop and just being in a coffee shop and reading a book or doing something like that. Just time alone I've found really helps, because I feel like the overwhelm of everything else adds to the overwhelm I'm already feeling inside. So if I'm getting anxious about an ultrasound, if I've got so much work going on and so much stuff going on with the kids, it just feels like too much and it sends me down that spiral. So making sure that I've got some space in my week for me really helps. Another thing that I've found that helps is just letting it out, like voicing it to someone. If I'm feeling like crying. If I'm feeling angry, letting it out in some way. when I'm trying to hold it in and I'm trying to keep it a secret and I'm trying to be like, I'm coping, this is all fine, it inevitably explodes somewhere. So if I want to stay away from that big explosion and it needing to be a big drama, I found that letting it out little by little. So for instance, the other day I was feeling a little bit anxious. I've started to feel movement, but it's not really regular at this point yet. I'm kind of just every now and then I'm feeling him. And instead of just kind of keeping that quiet and letting it simmer, I just said to my husband about it and he totally talked me around. This is way earlier than I've felt any baby and it's really not something I need to stress about just yet. And if I'm really worried about it, we can go see someone, like if that's where I'm at. And when I spoke to him about it, I kind of realized, no, I'm not there yet. I'm not that anxious about it. It's kind of just like a niggling worry. But when you deal with it by yourself, it gets bigger and bigger. But if you voice it, it tends to let it calm down a little bit. And finally, the last one, sometimes just plain old distraction will help. So Netflix, reading a great novel, going out with some friends, doing something that's not related to the pregnancy and will just kind of help me pass the time and distract me is really helpful. So the day of the 20-week ultrasound, I'll be planning something that will keep me busy until the appointment so that I don't have to think about it because I know what it's going to be like. I'm going to be thinking only of that from the moment I wake up, actually from the few nights before I wake up. So I will already be pre-planning to keep me out of that spiral because if I'm with people and I'm distracted, then I know that I'm not going to get into such a state if I'm by myself worrying. So I hope that helps if any of you are experiencing the same sort of thing, whether it's anxiety for whatever reason or you two are pregnant and have experienced losses in the past and that's kind of making it worse. Maybe you haven't experienced losses and you're just feeling anxious because you don't need to have gone through that loss to feel anxiety during pregnancy. So let me know if any of these tips have helped you or if you have any other ideas. I would love to know yours as well, so make sure you write them in the comments below. Otherwise, until next week, I'm just going to be here hanging out in the veggie patch, trying to stay off the internet as much as possible because it makes my anxiety worse, and reading lots of books. So I hope to catch up with you soon. There will be a new online yoga circle video out for February if you're in that membership and are looking for the new class. It's going to be all about how balance is bullshit, so keep an eye out for that one. Otherwise, have a beautiful week, look after yourself, make sure you hit subscribe if you haven't already. Namaste.